strangled and dead in her car in Mountain View, California. When Lori was found, the rope was still around her neck and her footprints were found inside of her car on her windshield. Police immediately put all their attention on Lori's boyfriend's roommate, John Kevin Woodward, who was 28 years old at the time. He became a prime suspect when police found out that he was jealous that Lori was in a relationship with his roommate. In 1992, investigators were able to find John's fingerprints outside of Lori's car, but they were never able to prove that he was inside her car. He didn't have an alibi for the night of Lori's murder, and they tried to convict him twice, but they were never able to because there was insufficient evidence. However, in 2020, investigators started to re-examine Lori's case and found more evidence against John. They analyzed 80 fingerprints and used new developments in forensic science to analyze the rope used in Lori's murder. This is when the test results indicated more fingerprints matching John's, and he was linked to the rope used in Lori's murder. At this point, John lives in the Netherlands and he's now 58 years old. And he's also the CEO of a tech company called Reed Tech. This guy was living the dream. But that all came to an end on July of this year when police were waiting for him at the airport in New York, and when he landed, they arrested him. He now faces life in prison if he's convicted.
In February of 2018, Janaire Gerardo found out that Mark, her husband of 25 years, was having an affair with his coworker, Meredith Chapman. Mark told Janaire that he was filing for divorce in May of that year. Janaire then hired a company to hack her husband's phone, and she was able to obtain hundreds of texts, images, and recorded conversations. She also bought audio surveillance equipment, a lock-picking kit, GPS for both Mark and Meredith's car, and DNA test kits for his clothes. She then bought a gun on March 20th. On April 23rd, Janaire was supposed to meet Mark for dinner to discuss their divorce. She never showed, but sent him this text instead. She then drove a rented vehicle to Meredith's house, where she broke into her home and waited for her. When Meredith walked in the door, Janaire shot her in the head. Janaire then turned the gun on herself. Mark then drove to Meredith's house, where he found both women dead of gunshot wounds.
Unsolved Mysteries Part 1. In 2011, divers were searching the Baltic Sea when they came around this big, huge rock circular formation. It was said to have stairs and even creepy entranceways. Some believe it's some type of experimental ship from World War II. Strangely, it's made out of magnesium, iron, and titanium. And there's a strange 40 megahertz signal coming from around it. Could it be aliens? Could it be our ancient ancestors' technology? Scientists still don't know to this day, and it baffles them. What do you guys think it is? And like this video for part 2.
A 24-year-old mukbanger just died after her stomach ripped open on live stream. This was also a 10-hour live stream. It was very lengthy, and she was consuming a lot of things: cake, chicken, everything, you name it. She was a Chinese woman by the name of Pan Xiaoting. She died last week from a stomach rupture on the live stream after consuming over 15 pounds of food. The autopsy report suggested that her stomach literally ripped open because there was a lot of undigested food in there and the stomach was distended. This was not the first incident either. She was hospitalized a few months ago for her stomach bleeding for the same thing, eating a lot of food on a live stream. And it's sad too, because even her parents are begging her to stop. A lot of mukbang culture has become a little toxic. The more outrageous it gets, the more viewers, these people get and the more money they make. It kind of incentivizes them to destroy their bodies in this way. I really feel for this young girl and her family. It's just so sad. Hopefully other mukbangers see this and they take this as like a warning. Just be more careful. Your stomach can literally rupture. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
This 21-month-old baby went missing 51 years ago and has just been reunited with her family. In 1971, Melissa Highsmith was a baby. Her parents had just separated, and her mum, Alta, was looking for someone to help with childcare so she could try and keep her job. She posted an advert in a local newspaper and got a reply from someone called Ruth Johnson. Ruth picked Melissa up from Atla's roommate one day when Atla was at work. The roommate reported that Ruth seemed to be nice and she was well dressed. She was wearing a bonnet and white gloves. However, tragically, the woman never returned, and this was the last time her mum would see Melissa for 51 years. The local community set out looking for baby Melissa, but the police had little to go off. Atla had been absolutely desperate for childcare, and with the threat of losing her job, hadn't been able to visit Ruth at her address prior to agreeing to the childcare. Ruth and Atla had arranged to meet prior to the initial babysit, but Ruth failed to show up. With limited options, once Ruth got back in contact, Atla took her up on her offer. Melissa's case would go cold for half a century. In November 2022, there was a false sighting of Melissa. Despite the disappointment that this caused to the family, it also spurred them on to start looking again. Melissa's dad submitted a home DNA test kit. The results that came back, they didn't even know about. Melissa's dad was able to get hold of a marriage record and find Melissa on Facebook. Melissa was going by the name Melanie Walden. At first, Melanie was very skeptical when Jeffrey explained the situation. He managed to convince her that he was genuine by explaining to her the birthmark that he knew that she had on her back. Melanie agreed to a DNA test, which once and for all confirmed she was missing baby Melissa. She finally got reunited with her family and revealed she'd actually been raised in a town less than 20 minutes from where she was snatched. Now, no information has been released about the woman who raised Melissa, apart from the fact that she was abusive and caused Melissa to leave home when she was just 15. When Melissa confronted her about the news that she now knew, the woman that raised her admitted to knowing that she had been kidnapped. Melissa is now going by her birth name again and wants to have another wedding ceremony so that her dad can walk her down the aisle.
Shout out to Sauce, the boss, of course, man. Who's in the building, man? Shout out to Sauce.
About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only.
Today,
Shout out to King Sauce Boss in the building about you, and it's no one.
It's partially based off of this. This happened in Earling, Iowa, which they called the Earling exorcism, which was the exorcism of Anna Eklund. Anna was a normal girl from Iowa. She went to church, she said her prayers, and then at the age of 14, she started showing signs of possession. Suddenly, one day, she just could not enter the church, and she showed extreme aversion to anything religious, which was really weird because she was a very religious girl. It was reported that demons were literally speaking through her in Latin and other ancient languages that she had never learned. There was also this pea-sized lump right under her skin that you could see that would just freely move. Last sanctioned exorcism on her. It took 23 days with a lot of difficulty, but finally the last several demons that were in her were exorcised. Her case still remains a mystery, and people debate whether or not she was actually possessed or just insane. Let me know in the comments if you think she was actually possessed or if she was just crazy.
There is this infamously mysterious child corpse in Italy that appears to open her eyes every single day. It was like over 100 years ago that Rosalia Lombardo had passed tragically, and her father, who was mourning the loss, had her embalmed using these secretive methods that to this day have kept her frozen in time. Visitors do come from all over the place to see the preservation up close, but there's something that's very strange here that happens on a daily basis. Her eyes will open, only for a moment, twice a day. But the truth here is that her embalmer had actually preserved her with her eyes slightly opened, which has created this illusion. It is known as mummy blink because the eyes are partially open so that when the sun comes through the catacomb but twice a day, it temporarily gives this impression that she is fluttering her eyelids open.
Maybe time to leave the UK while you have the chance. There is very mixed opinions on these new plans that have just been put forward, so let me know your thoughts. As I'm sure most of you know, prisons are pretty much at capacity, if not already in the UK, which is like completely overflowing the system. For a while, they've been looking at the ways they can reduce the amount of people in the prisons and rehabilitate people in different ways. But these are essentially the new plans that could be here now. As a way to get prisoners out of jail, they will have very strict measures against them, including bans from pubs, they won't be able to enter them, bans from football matches, so you won't be going and seeing your team, not being allowed to concerts or music festivals, along with having regular alcohol and drug tests by officers to check that you're basically not being bad. There will also reportedly be driving limits, travel bans, and restriction zones confining them into specific areas where they live. As I say, this is pretty divided because some people are saying, well, this isn't going to stop anyone, just because you can't go to the pub or a football match. But other people are saying this is a very good idea because it can basically lower the prison population, free up space, and basically mean these criminals can't do anything when they're on the outside, but who knows? Let me know your thoughts and I'll keep you updated.
So I wanted to bring this case to light. This is the case of the mother and son who were murdered in their own home in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hi, I'm Sonia, and I have been in the mental health field for over 10 years. I like to spread knowledge on recent cases and a lot of cases that don't get as much attention as they should do. This is Shanquille and her son, Zavion Watts. Their case remains unsolved. They were killed in their own home, and police have not arrested anyone for the crime. Police have stated that they did not think it was a forced intrusion, and that whoever came into the home and killed Shanquille and her son knew them and knew them very well.
So this murdered Texas couple's missing baby has finally been found after 42 years. And the story is crazy. Let's take a look. So in 1981, Dean Klaus, his wife Tina Lynn, and their baby Holly disappeared without a trace in East Texas. The only clue was from an anonymous caller who said that he had found Dean's car in California. And he claimed that 3 women in white robes drove it from Texas to California. Sister Susan, and she claimed that Dean had joined a cult and renounced all earthly possessions. And she wouldn't tell them anything else. It actually wasn't until late last year that human remains found around the same time were confirmed to be Dean and Tina's. Dean had been beaten to death and Tina had been strangled. But that didn't answer what happened to Holly. This year, investigators were searching for human remains around where Dean and Tina were found. And that's when they got a genetics hit that Holly was alive and in Oklahoma. But get this, when they were talking to Holly, they found out that she had been left on the steps of a church in Arizona by none other than 3 women in white robes. Investigation is still pending, and they are really trying to figure out who these white-robed women are. But for now, at least we know that Holly is alive and well.
Nothing scares me more than movies that are based on a true story. Because what do you mean the family was haunted and physically attacked by a demon in their home?
About you, and it's no one else like
I knew how terrifying it would be, and I was not wrong. Not to mention, while filming this movie, the cast experienced a lot of paranormal activity, like bruises, flickering lights, strange noises, and Vera Farmiga, who played Lorraine Warren, one day woke up to 3 scratch marks on her thigh, which if you know what that means, I'd be scared too. But still, here I am at the advanced screening of The Conjuring. Don't let the smile fool you. I had my eyes closed throughout probably half of the movie. Also, the only seat available was right in front of the screen, so it made everything 10 times more scarier. After the movie was done, Warner Bros. Took us to a mirror maze at the scene, which after watching that movie, I don't think anything else can top that. But if you don't get scared easily, I dare you to go watch The Conjuring, which will be out in theaters on September 5th.
Of course, Sauce.
A woman texted her boss that she couldn't come into work because she had been kidnapped, and now her kidnapper has been charged. On April 8th, police responded to a Fargo, North Dakota home after a woman reportedly sent her boss a text message claiming she had been kidnapped by her ex-boyfriend and that she wouldn't be able to come into work. Thankfully, her boss notified authorities, and when officers arrived at the residence, it was the woman who opened the door. According to a statement from the Fargo Police Department, the woman was rescued safely from the scene, after which she told police that her ex, Anthony Peterson, had held her hostage at gunpoint in her home and didn't let her leave the residence for days. Police then found Peterson inside the home asleep on a couch and in possession of a handgun. The gun was allegedly stolen, and Peterson also is not allowed to have a firearm in his possession, as he has had several convictions. The convictions include violating a protection order on 3 separate occasions, stalking, and domestic assault. Last week, 39-year-old Peterson was arrested and charged with unlawful possession of a firearm and terrorizing with a dangerous weapon in connection with the incident. The public defender has said that he is expected to plead not guilty, but he is also facing other charges, including stolen property and felonious restraint. The woman's name has not been released, but hopefully she is safe and is recovering from this clearly traumatic event. But the fact that she just texted her boss saying, "Hey, I can't come into work because I'm being kidnapped and held hostage by my ex," crazy.
What happened to this girl? So the internet is so concerned for this YouTuber named Kate Young. She made mukbang videos, and if you don't know what that is, they're videos where you're just eating and people are watching it. She was eating so much food in such a quick amount of time, as if she was being forced to eat. The videos are also really concerning because you can see she's blindfolded in all of the videos to conceal her identity. And you would maybe think, like, oh yeah, like she just doesn't want people to know who she is. That's fine, it's the internet. But on top of that, she looks like she's kind of being abused. Like, I don't know, I get a bruise here and there, but girl looks busted in her video. And behind the camera, you hear this person saying, faster, come on. She's eating so fast that she actually chipped her tooth in one and kept eating. When she chips her tooth, she shows it to the camera and it's literally rotted. She leaves hidden messages in her videos, like capital letters spelling out SOS or help in her sentences that she writes on the video. If you want a video of this, let me know. She also leaves Morse code messages in her videos saying SOS and help. I can show you if you want. Just let me. And at the end of one of her videos, you can see her mouth the words help me. Check out part 2 if you want to see theories about who she might be. Follow my TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for more content.
The strangest unsolved mysteries from each state. Today we have Tennessee. This is a picture of Blair Adams, and it was the summer of 1996 when all of his friends and his mother even said that he was acting very strangely. It was July 5th when he went to the bank and withdrew all of his money and then went to a safe deposit box and took out all of the gold, the jewelry, and the cash. This was all happening in British Columbia in Canada, and he wanted to go to the United States. When he tried to cross the border, they flagged him as a possible drug carrier and threat because of him carrying all of this money, and he was unmarried. And because of that, he was denied entry into the United States. Eventually, he made it past the border by car and made it to Tennessee. On July 11th, workers found Blair's body at a construction site with all of his gold, all of his cash, everything. There were multiple cuts and scratches all over his body, and one was determined on his face to be was a severe blow to the abdomen. But the craziest thing was everything that he took out of the bank and a safe was still with him. The killer did not want what he had, and nobody knows why he went to Tennessee.
Evil teen girls rotting in prison, Part 4. Courtney Christine Schulhoff was born into a two-parent household in Washington, D.C. on December 27, 1987. By age 15, her parents were divorced, and she was living with her father, Stephen Schulhoff, in Altamonte Springs, Florida. She didn't make things easy on her aging father. She had dropped out of high school, but was still trying to get her GED. In addition, she was involved with Michael Marin, a 20-year-old who she met at a dog race track across from her old high school. Michael wasn't just a predator. He was also a thief, as he got in trouble with the law for stealing his father's car in the past. As you can imagine, Stephen was unhappy to see this older man with a criminal record dating his daughter. He tried to keep them apart, but they continued to see each other. At some point during their relationship, Schulhoff began to tell Michael that her father was physically abusive toward her. Michael fell for her lies and was lured into a plan to get rid of her dad. On February 10, 2004, Stephen was asleep in his bedroom. Courtney let Michael into the apartment she shared with her father and directed him toward a baseball bat. She went across the street while Michael grabbed the bat and beat her father to death. After the heinous crime, the couple took Stephen's truck to a McDonald's 20 miles away in Orlando, Florida. The next day, they came back to the apartment. They were planning to transport the body to a nearby bridge and throw it in the water, but they never got the chance. Stephen's girlfriend, Elaine Book, showed up at the apartment. Book saw Courtney and Michael flee just before she walked in and discovered her lover's body. She contacted authorities, and within hours, the deranged couple was arrested. Courtney claimed her father had beaten her on the night, and they decided to kill him. But there was no evidence she was being abused. Courtney went to trial on September 26, 2006. The next day, she was found guilty of first-degree murder and received life without the possibility of parole. In her final statement before she was hauled off to prison, she claimed she was the killer, not Michael. She would say the same thing when she testified on Michael's behalf at his trial in April 2007. She was trying to save him from a death sentence. Michael was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. In 2017, Schulhoff was resentenced to 40 years in prison. She will be released when she is 56 years old.
In 1969, this little boy vanished under the strangest circumstances near the Appalachian Trail, and his disappearance is still unsolved today. On June 14th, 6-year-old Dennis Martin went camping with his family in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. On this trip, Dennis was joined by his father, grandfather, and older brother. It was their Father's Day tradition, and on this trip, Dennis was just 6 days away from turning 7 years old. Sadly, we don't know that he ever made it to that milestone. Together, the family camped overnight after a hike to Russell Field, and the next day, they set out to hike Spence Field near the Appalachian Trail, where they had planned to spend the night once more. At the time of his disappearance, it was 4:30 in the afternoon, still completely daylight out. Dennis, along with his older brother and additional children from another family, ran to hide behind some bushes to pop out and scare the adults. Dennis was seen by his father going behind a bush to hide. The other children popped out to surprise the adults, but Dennis never did. After about 5 minutes of waiting for him, his father went to check behind the bush that he was sure his son hid behind, but he wasn't there. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. His father immediately began searching for him. He would even run down the trail for nearly 2 miles in a desperate attempt to find his son. After several hours of searching, they sought the help of the National Park Service Rangers. They had nearly 1,400 people looking for Dennis, and they would later stumble upon a shoe and a sock believed to belong to him. Then a set of footprints, one footprint with a shoe and the other barefoot. The set of footprints led to a stream where they disappeared. While this may point to the idea of an accidental drowning, Dennis's father still believed that his son was somehow abducted. After all, how could he have run off without being seen? His father noted that Dennis was wearing a bright red shirt, so he should have been easy to track down. On the afternoon that Dennis went missing, another man that was at the campground around the time of his disappearance recalled hearing a sickening scream. Shortly after, he witnessed what he described as a shaggy, unkempt man running up the trailer. What do you think happened to Dennis Martin?
She took the life of her daughter because SpongeBob SquarePants told her to. 22-year-old Justine Johnson lived with her 3-year-old daughter Sutton Mosser in Michigan. Even though she had her own apartment, she mainly stayed with her parents at their home along with her 2 brothers. On September 16th of 2021, Justine's brothers noticed that Justine's behavior was very odd. They hadn't seen Sutton and they asked Justine where she was, and Justine would reply back to them saying, "Mind your own effing business." Later that night, Justine had left the home, and when she came back to the home, she was acting very strange. One of the brothers had stepped out of the home into the backyard, and that's when they saw a foot sticking out of a trash bag. He decided to take a closer look at that trash. This was reported to police, and Justine was arrested. Justine ended up confessing, and she stated that she was suffering from lack of sleep, hallucinations, and withdrawals from substances. She then claimed that she was told by SpongeBob SquarePants to take Sutton's life. Justine's mother claimed that she didn't believe that her daughter did this and it had to be someone else. If Justine is convicted, she could be facing a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
It's official. Akon City, Africa's promised real-life Wakanda, has just been abandoned permanently. This is what it was supposed to look like next year, and this is what it looks like today. So what the hell went so wrong?
People sometimes write articles about something like this could never happen in Africa. It's been 2 years, the construction hasn't started. I hear that all the time. We're building a city. You don't build a city in 24 hours.
Turns out the city can't be built in 7 years either. Because rewind back to 2018, rapper Akon announced that he was going to build a $6 billion futuristic city on the Atlantic coast of Senegal, the country where he spent a lot of time growing up. And the plan was revolutionary. It would run on 100% sustainable energy, have cutting-edge smart city infrastructure. Its sole medium of exchange would be a cryptocurrency called Acoin. And most importantly, the city would serve as a symbol for what was actually possible for Africa's future. And Senegal themselves, they were hyped. They even asked the people that were currently living on that land to move in exchange for a fee, of course, also a fee that still to this day they claim has never been paid. And that's where the first cracks in Akon City begin. Because 3 years after its initial announcement, local residents started reporting that aside from a single ceremonial foundation, it was the pandemic. And look, hey, 2020, it screwed the whole world over. But then came these scam allegations. In 2022, Akon's former business partner asked a New York judge to freeze Akon's assets and also filed a $4 million lawsuit claiming that Akon City displayed many of the trademark characteristics of a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme. However, despite this, Akon remained positive he took the nearly $1 million settlement on the chin and kept insisting Akon City is 100,000% moving forward, and the critics are going to look super stupid when it's built. But the years kept rolling around. By the end of 2023, the Guardian went to Akon City, and they found no more than a mere skeleton of one building, no roads, no housing, solar farms, or towers like he had promised by the end of that year. Then 2024 rolled around, and even Senegal at this point was getting pissed. They gave Akon 2 weeks to begin meaningful construction, or they would start taking away the land. Problem is, crypto went into a bear market, and Akon wasn't doing so well. In fact, today it is down 100%. And that was a big financial pillar, especially to repay investors. So that, coupled with the lack of progress and missed payments, was the final nail in the coffin. Akon once said, "My goal is to try and build something that people deem impossible in Africa." And unfortunately for the entire continent, he proved people right. Because this week they announced the Akon City project no longer exists, and Akon himself will instead work on something more realistic.
This mother sold her 6-year-old for her eyes and her skin. A 6-year-old girl went missing in South Africa last year, and her mother was just convicted of kidnapping and trafficking her. The young girl, Jocelyn Smith, has yet to be found right now. She was last seen with a local healer who wanted her for her eyes and her skin. Her mother, Kelly Smith, and 2 others were convicted on trafficking charges on May 2nd. One of the neighbors came forward and confessed that the mother was confiding in her plans to sell her to this local healer. The young girl's teacher also testified in court, asking the mother where the child is. The mother then replied to the teacher saying she's in a container on a ship going to West Africa. They found the woman who was the local healer and questioned her, but they released her due to lack of evidence right now. If everything in this story is true, and she did sell her daughter, she is probably somewhere in a container or somewhere just getting trafficked. And who knows if she's even alive at this point. The court decision was made. Smith was plotting, rightfully so. Hopefully Jocelyn Smith is found soon. Let me know your thoughts.
You don't want to know what's inside this fridge. Just trust
life,
me.
son.
And please, please,
Solve
please be
the
warned.
bars.
This is
It's his birthday. Everybody wish him happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody with sauce. Happy birthday, man. Let's go. Let's see it in the timeline.
Oh, man. We're back once again.
I like the,
you know, it's a beautiful day.
sauce.
If you're feeling down, just get you a bag of that.
I like the wish. Sauce the boss. A happy birthday.
You missed the hair ride.
I like to give a big shout to Ashley Gordon. Somebody said Ashley Gordon.
Killer vision, PSER in hospital. Okay. Let me on this track. Accidents are like conscious, unconscious. Flow riding on my train. Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable. Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Therefore, flying off the track. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When I land, soul train line, hop up on my dad. They feel what they don't understand. I forgive them cause they really don't know better. Hope let them walk on water. I'm dancing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with a polo shirt. How bad do you want success? I was holding my breath. Unconsciously, the conscious me woke up and came up for air. I turned 136 to the boom but ain't dancing with chops. I guaranteed them in the dreams. Fire miss, Mr. Clean. Dirty talk, come shots. Listen